Everyone knows my favorite thing to work on is camcorders, right? Yeah, right. They're not my favorite thing to work on, but I do work on them. And many times we get lucky with them, other times we don't. It all depends on the damage. And the problem with camcorders is, well, they were taken out and abused. People dropped them, they got wet, they got sand in them. Any number of things can ruin a tape-based camcorder. I've got a MiniDV shipped in. Let's take a look at it. So I got this camera shipped in, and as I opened up the box, I realized that I have a helper, and there was a note in here that says I attempted to take it apart and reseat the connectors, but, well, this is how it arrived. And it says, P.S. some screws are missing. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do anything on this. So let's, we'll see what I can do on this one. I'll try, but I can't guarantee that I'm going to be able to do anything because I don't know what the fault is, first of all, and it's been disassembled. It was shipped in pieces. How much damage has been done? Maybe none, hopefully none, but we'll see. Let me get a power source for this thing. I want to see what it does when I try to power it up. We'll first try powering it up and just see what it does, if anything. Okay, what usually causes that to not retract is there's a switch that gets dirty. So let's just see where that switch is. It's when this latch is in place. There's a little micro switch on. I think it's on this side over here. And that little switch. There's a little switch right down. It's hard to see. Probably can't see it on camera because of the way that this cabinet is. And we can't really open this up because it's got the power switch and everything mounted on the back side of it. But there is a small switch down here that does give trouble. When the basket goes down, the lever here, the bottom of the lever, you can see flipping back and forth there, that trips the switch. This one's got multiple problems. For starters, the LCD screen is no good. It's not turning on. Camera's on, but there's nothing from the LCD screen. Looking to see if the backlight's lit. If I close this down, I get a picture. Well, I don't get a picture. I have just a green. It's a night shot. Looks like it's a night shot. I don't have a picture. I have a white screen. And if I switch it to night shot, it says night shot on the screen and it turns green, but there's nothing. Like the picture is solid white. So the camera itself isn't working. That's for starters. The LCD is not working. That's the second thing, is the LCD is completely dead. The switch is activating because when I close it, it detects the switch because it immediately comes up with the C3130 error. It doesn't. The motor doesn't even attempt to load. When I open the cassette compartment again, the loading motor is working because it can run the loading motor to open the cassette. So I know the loading motor is going both ways because you can hear it. You can hear it go one direction to release the catch, and then go back the other direction to release the eject, so that you can close the basket down. You'll hear it. You'll hear it go zzz, zzz. Listen. See? So the loading motor is able to turn both directions, but it's not loading the tape. When you try to load it, nothing happens. It doesn't try to take the tape down. The focus is sticking here. This is dragging, which makes me think that this camera may have been dropped. There's also broken plastic right here. Right? There's broken plastic here, and the unit itself just seems like it's been banged around. I mean, even if it hadn't been gotten into by the owner trying to get into it, I think he just took this top cover off it and then abandoned his efforts. I think that goes on like that. Yeah, that goes on like that. I think he just started to take the cover off it and then realized he was in over his head and sent it to me. But I think this camera itself is probably in unrepairable condition, just from all the magnitude of problems it's got. It's not just a simple problem with the transport not closing. The transport's not closing. There's no picture on the camera, and there's no viewfinder that's working. So we've got multiple problems on this camera. I'll try to disassemble it a little bit more and see if I can spot anything, like maybe a connector that's popped apart or something. But I'm not holding my breath on this particular one, because I think we're going to find some serious problems inside here that are not going to be solvable. And I don't just mean economically. I mean just it's not going to be repairable. There's going to be damage hidden in here. And the sad reality is that even when these cameras were still around in the 90s, when people were still shooting on tape, we saw a lot of cameras that did come in that were not repairable. Like customers would bring cameras in that they'd been to the beach and got sand in them and so forth, or the kids took them skateboarding and crashed. There was a lot of cameras that came into the shop that were never repaired, just because you get into it, you start working on it, and you start finding one thing after another. You start finding broken parts, and once you start to get in finding ribbon cables that are damaged or ripped, or circuit boards that are broken, at that point it was just a write-off. So this should pop off. I think I got all the screws out of here. No, there's one more. There's always one elusive screw that is the one that throws a wrench at removing the front piece. Okay, that comes off. Unplug this. That's the second one of those LEDs on the roof bar that have gone out on me in not that long. They've only been in here a couple of years, but that's the second one that's failed. This should pop apart. I got this one screw is just not coming out. There we go. Okay, now this should lift off. Oh, always one more. Always one more. Okay, now this should lift off and unplug. What the hell is that? I guess that's heat sink compound to transfer the heat from this heat sink onto this one here. That's what that is. That looks like it might be bent. I get this sneaking suspicion that this camera took a tumble. I'm thinking Capstan motor is not working. It's not turning, because what happens when you first load it is it kicks the motors, it kicks the drum, it kicks the Capstan motor to make sure everything can turn before it tries to load the tape. Otherwise, if the Capstan motor won't turn, it won't load the tape, because the tape, that's what's used to retract the tape back into the shell. And when I try to turn the little gear here by hand, it's stuck. So I think this Capstan motor might be seized up. But I think that might be part of our problem here, is the Capstan motor's either got something jammed in the teeth and stuck, or it's seized up, or the mechanism itself is damaged because it was dropped and something got bent. And something got bent and jamming something. If I was betting, I would bet that it got dropped, just because the fact that this is sticking. That's the focus, and you can feel it dragging. So if I was betting on it, this camera got dropped. And camcorders do not take dropping lightly. You drop a camera, there's a good chance it's never going to work again. We'll see if I can just try to free this up from here, because this should be turning freely, and it's not. This is not turning at all. Okay, now it's turning a bit. Not turning freely, though. This should spin. And you can hear it. You can hear something binding in there. It's either something is jamming it, or let's see what happens here. Do I see anything, any attempt at the Capstan trying to move? Yeah, I don't see any attempt. To show the process of how this does work, I don't know if we can see it in here or not. Can we see this on the camera? But I know I can see it if I look at the right angle. But down in here, you'll see there'll be a little gear. You'll see it right down there. That little white gear right down in here. When I first close the basket, you'll hear the Capstan motor go chirp, and you'll see the gear move, and then it will lower down the basket. You see the gear right in the middle of the frame, right below the little sensor LED. Watch that gear. When I snap it down, see? And then it closes. That's the Capstan motor This is the same type of mechanism. This is my HDV camera. No, I will never part with this one because I think this is just too cool. This is a high definition camera, and I just dug it out so I could exercise it a bit, because you want to really do this once in a while just to make sure everything stays working. But you hear the little chirp. Listen. Okay, close it, and you probably see the gear on the bottom here too. You'll see this little gear down here. This is the one I was turning on the other camera that was not turning. Okay, this little gear here turns freely. This little gear turns freely, you see. And the other one's jammed. So when I close it, you'll see that moves. Watch. See? That's what it's supposed to do. And unless it can do that, it is not ever going to load down the cassette. Now, why is it not doing it? Is something bent? More than likely, something's bent. I won't know that until I get the whole unit apart, which is what I'm going to have to do. And then even if I get the thing to work, I don't know that the camera is going to work either, because the camera has a blank screen. So I'm not getting any image off the camera. Actually, it's not a black screen. It's like a bluish kind of screen. And if I put it into night shot, it's a greenish hued screen, because of course it turns on that fake night vision. But I just wanted to show what a working camera, how these work, the mechanism for a working camera. So we know what road we're going down, why this isn't loading. It's because the capstan motor is seized or jammed. Oh, and incidentally, the edge connectors that need to be reseated, it's generally just the 8mm cameras that have that happen. I haven't had that happen too often on DV. I don't think I've ever seen it happen on the DV cameras. I guess it could, but I just don't see it. But it was a problem with the 8mm. The 8mm cameras had to have that done on them all the time. I just want to get down under this board here. I want to see if I can get to the capstan motor and see what's jamming it. It could be sand or something in it, right? It's I remember the old manual saying, don't get sand in your camera. Sometimes this cannot be repaired. Well, a lot of times it couldn't be repaired. People take the camera to the beach and get sand in it, and it just gets into all the little teeth on all the little gears and jams everything up, and the amount of time taken to take it apart to clean it out. I did a number of VX1000s that used to get. They were used by the local church youth group that took the stupid things to their youth camps, and used to get them all full of crap. It was a regular thing. And anyway, they'd bring them to me to fix it. And this guy had spent more money on fixing his camera than I think he paid for it. I was always having to take the thing apart and fix it. Can't even see it from here yet. But it was a regular occurrence to get. Either got water in it or you got sand in it. And it was just a real pain in the ass to keep this thing running. Yeah, that's jammed up completely. Well, I think at this point in time, this one here is pretty much beyond repair. And I know some of you aren't going to like to hear that, but unfortunately, that's the way it is with this crap. Yeah, I said it again. This small, expensive crap, when it's damaged like this, when it works, it's great, but the problem is it's so small. They are very fragile, and I don't know what happened to this. I don't know the story behind it. All I can tell you is that the capstan motor is seized, and there's no picture coming off the CCD, and the LCD screen doesn't light up, and there's no image on that. So I can see 3 problems on this, and I don't think it's in anyone's best interest, especially mine, because I'm the one who's wasting my time, to really go any further on this one in the hopes that I can pull off a Hail Mary and fix it, because I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think even if it was just the Capstan motor was jammed, you know, if that was the only thing, if the LCD worked and the camera worked and it was just the Capstan motor was jammed, and we can say maybe it's got some dirt in there, we can tear this whole thing apart and clean it and take out the grains of sand in there if that's what it is. It could be in the teeth, it could be grains of sand in the teeth, it could be grains of sand between the rotor and the stator. And in that case, it's going to grind away at it and burn out the motor, and bugger up the motor. Could be the motor itself that's failed. Right? Could be the, I don't see the capstan pushing up through the top here, but that's also a possibility. Right? We saw that happen before with bearings, that the bearing let go and the motor actually, the magnet attracts to the stator and the base plate, and it actually makes contact and stops it from turning. That can certainly happen too. You don't see that that's happened here, but it's hard to tell. It won't turn. It's jammed. Even when I try to turn the Capstan motor directly by putting my pick on the Capstan motor, the rotor, and try to turn it, it doesn't budge. Like, it's frozen solid. So why is it frozen solid? Is something jamming it? Is it bent? I think the camera was dropped because of, again, going back to, you hear that? Listen. Like, this is tight. It's really tight. It's hard to turn. This should spin freely, the focus ring, because all it is it's just an optical sensor. If you look down inside here, there's 2 little optical sensors, and there's a wheel with a bunch of slots in it. You see, and all that does is that just rotates, but it's sticking. So that makes me think that this camera's got dropped, and it's either landed on the front or somewhere, and something may be bent. That might be why the Capstan motor's jammed. The metal chassis could be bent. If that's the case, you're not getting a chassis. You're not fixing it. So I think the best thing to do at this point is just to write this one off and say, you know, it's not worth fixing. In reality, none of these little cameras are really worth fixing. You know, when the amount of time you can spend on working on a little camera like this, you can buy these things for $10 a dozen. And literally, I mean, people were getting rid of these things left, right, and center a few years ago because nobody's using tape anymore, right? People that had them, they transferred their tapes over and then they sold their cameras or gave them to Goodwill or wherever, and they ended up in the used market dirt cheap. But, you know, just looking at this, I mean, this looks like it's bent. If we look at this, look at the, just look at this. I mean, this looks like it's bent. I think that's supposed to be, that's a heat sink that's supposed to be on the back of the chip. But this all looks like it's been shoved back. You know, I mean, when we look here, look at the lens. If we look at the tape here, I mean, this just looks like this has been shoved back, right? You can see this. It's like a fold in it. So if it landed on the lens and this got shoved back, what did it do? You know, it could have broken that board in behind there, right? Flex on that board. And it also could have damaged the chassis, which is right in the area where that Capstan motor lives, on this side, down here. So anyway, I'm going to just kind of throw this thing kind of back together and let the guy know that, you know, this is a lost cause. There's no point in going any further. We know where the fault is. We know that the Capstan motor doesn't turn. It's supposed to do that kick when it starts up, and it will not load a tape without the Capstan motor and everything being free, because it'll just eat the tape. And again, here we can look right down here. This gear should be turning freely. This is connected directly to the Capstan motor through a tooth belt, and it's not moving. It's not like it's sticking a little bit. It's not like I can flip it and get past one little one tooth that's stuck. You know, it's not moving at all. Like, literally, the teeth are stripping. They're skipping over. This thing is completely seized. So likely we need a new Capstan motor, which, again, you're not finding one. So I'm just going to throw this together. We're going to end this one now, as I've wasted more than enough time on this already. Thanks for watching.